You're now listening to the Boys in the Booth podcast with your hosts, Harper Cody, Chad Melbourne, and Casey Abrams. New episodes every Monday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
All right, welcome back to the Boys in the Booth podcast. Cody, Abrams, and Melbourne. This is episode 152, part 2 of our World Juniors preview show. And these are the players to watch in Group B. So let's start with Team USA, fellas. Case.
Getting right into it. All right, welcome to the Devils portion of the World Junior Championship. I did not talk about them in the first episode, Group A, but I will be talking about them in Group B because there's two viable options on Team USA that you could take that are Devils prospects, both playing on the same team. But one of them is being talked about in redrafting of his draft class, going number 1 overall due to potential, and that is Luke Hughes. Surprised I didn't hear anything from Harper after I just said that he should have went over Owen Power.
I think it's too early.
I tune that out.
I think it's too early to conclude that.
It's not based off play, it's based off potential that people are saying this.
Right.
I just want to, like I did with the Stank Oven, I'm going to talk about some accolades from last season. Luke Hughes. This will be NCAA All-Rookie Team, NCAA Champion, NCAA Rookie of the Year, NCAA Second All-Star Team, Second All-American Team, Top Collegiate Player, Hobie Baker Finalist, World Junior Championship, Top 3 player on a team for USA last year. He will play 30 minutes a night for this team and is going to be looked upon to be the leader. He is the captain of this team. Expect big things from Luke Hughes in the World Junior Championship.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that he's going to play 30 minutes a night because that's what I wanted to bring up. Like, he's going to be the horse on the back end. He is going to be relied on in every situation, predominantly offensively, but I would imagine he will be in both zones at all times, or at least as much as his lungs can handle. I remember in the summer tournament, Mike Johnson was kind of going crazy because Luke Hughes was on the ice for so much in one. It was one of their games, and he got hurt. Kind of Luke Hughes did, and Mike Johnson just kept commenting on the fact that Hughes was limping around out there, and because he was injured, but he was still one of the best skaters on the ice. And
that is the thing about Luke Hughes, man, is he is. Man, you talk about Quinn and Jack, how fluid of skaters they are. They just kind of like prance around the ice. They're so fun to watch when they get up to full speed. Even like full speed looks like nothing to them. And then Jack playing 6 minutes and not even looking winded. Well, Luke Hughes has a bit of both of Quinn and Jack in him. The skating is there. They all skate together in the offseason. You can tell because his stride is just beautiful. And he loves to dish the puck around, but he likes to shoot like Jack. So he's got that Quinn-Jack mix. And man, am I excited for him to play in New Jersey.
Yeah, and he's got the size that the other two don't, which is always an added bonus, right, with a skilled player. The way that he walks the blue line when he gets the puck off the boards is gross. Like, he's one of the fanciest players with his footwork that I've seen in a while, at least among defensemen. It's like, picture PK Subban walking the blue line and then crumple up that image and throw it a million miles away because it's the complete opposite of that. It's the most fluid strides. It's getting the edges nice and, to staying around the blue line. Like, it's talent, it's skill, it's offensively minded. It's beautiful to watch, really. And every time I watch him play, that's what I think of, his skating. And not to pump your tires anymore here, Case, but he's one of my favorite players to watch because he does have the characteristics that his brothers have. They're just explosive and exciting to watch. So definitely will be a player that my eyes will be glued on because if you're watching a Team USA game, I don't think you're going to have a choice because he's going to be on the ice. Yeah. And when he's on the ice, he makes things happen. So we'll definitely be watching Luke Hughes.
I thought he would have made the Devils this year, honestly.
He made a choice after the draft, basically saying, I'm going to play another 2 years in the NCAA. And that was his choice. And honestly, I respect that and I appreciate it. It's like that step of becoming a defenseman at that age in the NHL. It just, we see it doesn't work out very often. And I don't mind him getting this extra bit of, tune-up before he makes the NHL.
Well, he took the same path that Quinn did, and I think we can all agree that that's worked out pretty nicely for Quinn, even though there's been some ups and downs and some struggles and some hurdles for Quinn to get over these past few years playing with Vancouver. I think we can all say that we recognize how good Quinn is, and if his brother is following the same footsteps and, going to be this similar kind of player on the back end, like, that can only be a positive thing.
Yeah, and I think that, to that point, I think the only difference is that Luke has the size.
Yes.
And, he's certainly developing like his brother has, and wearing the number 43, of course, like Quinn, and which is cool to see. And he's got that perfect combination, like just that long reach, but also mobile as well. And you look at teams that win Stanley Cups, and in this case, teams that win gold medals at the World Juniors, they have those big, long, mobile defensemen, and he certainly is that. Casey, you mentioned 2 Devils prospects on this blue line. The other is Seamus Casey, correct?
Yes. Correct.
So, yeah, he's another good one, but, and really, again, like, obviously Hughes is at the top, and like it's been a dream for U.S. defensemen here for them. Like you've got Jake Sanderson, who's an absolute horse for them, and then you've got Luke, who's going to be just a monster for them on the back end. But Seamus Casey, like I mentioned, Ryan Chesley, nice second round pick of the Washington Capitals, and so on and so forth. But he's going to be a horse for this team, and he'll be on the Devils sooner rather than later, and it's going to be good to watch him in this tournament for sure.
Yeah, the Devils are loaded on the back end, and Seamus Casey, like going into last year's draft, like I was almost certain that the Devils were going to pick Seamus Casey. It just made so much sense because of Casey, and because I wanted the Leafs to pick him with their early second rounder after trading down to Chicago in the Mrazek deal, and then they ended up taking Fraser Minton. I don't know if Casey was off the board at that time. I'm not sure, but I remember thinking to myself, that's the player I want the Leafs to take. Good mobile defenseman.
Well, it makes a lot of sense when you're in when you're watching Michigan play so much because of Luke that you're gonna see Seamus Casey play, and then Ethan Edwards was, I think, committed to them at the time, so now they have 3 defenseman prospects playing for Michigan. Fun little fact, quick tangent here: Michigan started their backup goalie as a winger the other night.
I saw that
because of illness to the team.
I saw that.
They had such few players that they had to get someone in there, and they started their backup goalie.
So how does that even happen? Like, how are you not able to call someone up from somewhere, or like sign a guy to a day contract?
Were you going to give them a scholarship?
Is there not a player at the university who played like junior A or something?
Right.
That's what I'm thinking of, and then you just sign them to the team contract.
You think they'd have a practice squad or something?
Like, and they, even at U of T,
or like
they have a practice squad.
Extramural.
Yeah.
Extramural.
Intramural.
Well, yeah, but okay.
Intramural.
There's one more than that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I was thinking. At least find a guy who's playing the top level, at their school, who played like even junior A or something. I feel like that would be common, no?
Yeah, anyways, Devil's back end is going to be an absolute wagon here soon. And I'm going to talk about another one in a bit just to spoil that.
Yeah, I mean, good pick. Like, I think we should mention...
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I think we should mention, because this is a separate episode from the first one, we mentioned this last episode, but not this one, that in these episodes, how we typically do it is we pick players who are going to be players to watch at this upcoming tournament. Might not be the best players on the team, or in Casey's case, probably is the best player on the team, the low-hanging fruit. It might be a player with an interesting storyline going in to the tournament. It might be a player who is draft eligible, who is going to be exciting but might not get that much playing time. but could excite in the few minutes that they do play. So we're not necessarily picking the best players available here. We're picking players who are interesting and that we're going to want to watch. And hopefully through these episodes, we're able to, educate some people about some players who you might not have heard of before this. So there's a lot of different angles that you can approach this episode at, and that's kind of how we're doing it. Sometimes we pick the best player, sometimes we pick an interesting player. So just wanted to get that out there because we didn't mention it this episode. We kind of just hopped into it. But yes, Luke Hughes, definitely a player that my eyes will be glued to in this tournament for sure.
All right, let's have yours.
Yes, the player that I'm going to talk about is a player that I talked about last year, actually, in this episode, the same one that we did. Because he was one of the youngest on the team last year. And similarly this year, he is one of the younger players on the team, not the youngest, but one of now. He's draft eligible in this upcoming draft. He's projected to go in the first round. It's Charlie Stramel, by the way. He played one game in the summer tournament and he had a point, so I guess that's good for what it's worth. He has 7 points in 18 games played for Wisconsin in the NCAA this year, but at 6'3", 216 pounds, he had 42 PIMs in those 18 games this year in the NCAA. So this isn't going to be a guy, I don't think anyways, that's going to light it up for the U.S. I think he's going to be playing more of a bottom six role as still one of the younger guys eligible to be drafted this year and clearly has that offensive potential up front if he's being projected to go within the first round. But I think if we're looking at him in this tournament, the first thing you're going to notice is he could be a guy to mix it up when the going gets tough for the USA. He could be a guy in the bottom six that's annoying to play against and might get into some trouble. So Charlie Stramel is the guy I'm going to be watching on Team USA.
I think this winger pairing is a pairing I bring up probably every year when we have this episode. But this sounds like a Zach Cassian and Cody Hodgson type winger that Canada had and really kind of showed some grit in the World Juniors, which is just not a thing you see often. And, here's your opportunity with a big guy like Stramel.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like there aren't, this upcoming draft is not as stacked with Americans in the first round as in years past.
Yes.
But I do think that this kid will be a first round pick in the upcoming draft. And you always want a guy with some edge. And that's really good for a team wanting to come in and win this tournament and a team that's got a good shot at it. So
yeah, and Stramel is a guy who is projected to go, from most accounts, about the mid third or mid first round rather. Mm-hmm. I've seen him projected as high as 8th overall. So I don't know if he goes that high, but I think a mid first rounder would be the proper place for him, and definitely a guy I wanted to watch. I was intrigued last year when he was the youngest player on the team, undrafted, and I'm still intrigued this year to watch him.
Speaking of guys who I think could mix it up, but I look at this guy as just being one of those classic power forwards in this tournament. The guy I'm going to mention as a player to watch for Team USA is Cutter Gauthier. First round pick of the Philadelphia Flyers, and it's nice to have a Flyers player in there just because it's been so god awful there the last couple of years, and torts and the rest of it, and they really need something from their prospects, and they need to continue to get more prospects. But Cutter Gauthier seems to be a good one, and there was a chance that he could have gone 3rd overall to Arizona in the last draft. He's an Arizona kid, big power forward. Again, I've mentioned before, that's what Bill Armstrong likes. But he ends up going 2 spots later to the Philadelphia Flyers. Very much fits their MO of just big, nasty, and but he can also score. He's over a point per game right now with Boston College in the NCAA, and I think will be a big part of this very good U.S. attack.
Yeah, he reminds me of I'll go ahead and piss off some Americans, hopefully listening, and say he's Mason McTavish light in the way that he plays the game. He's got a nose for the net and like really, like you said, like the power forward kind of that. Not many of that kind left, but he's got a drive to the net and he's got the opportunity to kind of bully his way around the ice, at least from what I remember of him, like when I was looking into him heading into the draft.
Yeah, an interesting storyline about this player is that I think coming out of the draft, some people were scratching their heads that he went so high, 5th overall to Philadelphia. I think especially a lot of analytic-minded people were scratching their heads for this pick, taking Cutter Gauthier 5th over some uber-talented players. But listen, like that's all part of the story, and that's all part of why it's going to be interesting to watch him at this year's tournament. Can he be relied on to be a point producer for this team? Can he be an engine, whether he plays in the top 6, bottom 6, middle 6, wherever he plays? Can he drive a line? Is he worthy of being that 5th overall pick in the most recent draft? We don't know at this point, obviously, but it's on Cutter Gauthier to kind of prove it to us because, again, I think it wasn't exactly a safe pick for Philadelphia, but I think there were reasons they did make that pick. Clearly, they like the way he plays, and he plays a Philadelphia Flyers style of hockey. There's a reason Travis Konechny is a great Flyer because he plays the same style. The thing I will say about the Flyers as we wrap up about Cutter Gauthier is maybe the only player who is more fit for Philadelphia to be drafted there is a player in this upcoming draft, Will Smith, projected to be drafted in the top 10 of this upcoming draft. How funny would it be if Will Smith was drafted to Philadelphia if they were picked, say 5th overall, 7th overall, something
Fresh
like that.
Prince going on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad someone got it. I don't think Harper got that at all, but I thought that was that was perfect. So,
I got it.
Okay, making sure. But yeah, Cutter Gauthier, it'd be an interesting player to watch. There's a little bit of a revenge arc there to silence the doubters.
Yeah, exactly. Honorable mention too, like Tyler Boucher, I think, of the Ottawa Senators, in a bit of a similar spot, like a bit of a head scratcher with how high he was drafted as well, bigger forward. All right, you've given it, yes, Strommel, perfect, okay, and we'll move on to Team Finland now. So players to watch for the Finns. Case, go ahead.
Hey guys, there's no betting corner segment in this episode of the podcast, so I thought I would take this time to tell you a little bit about our newest sponsor, BetStamp, the line shopping app for sports bettors. Betting lines have different odds across each sportsbook, and by using the BetStamp app, you can line shop across all of those sportsbooks to ensure that you're finding the best value available on the bets that you'd probably already be making. Also, the BetStamp app allows you to track all of your verified bets across those different sportsbooks so that you can build a more credible record as a bettor, and it allows you to follow other winning BetStamp users so that you can instantly be notified of their picks. So click the link in the description down below to download the BetStamp app today, and when you do, be sure to provide the code BOYSINTHEBOOTH when prompted to do so to let them know that we sent you. Every download really helps us out, and it helps you out as well, so we would really appreciate the support. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say about this guy because he showed what he was worth last year, and if you watched last year, you're going to remember this name in Alexei Haimosalmi. I can hear Gord saying his name in my head right now because he was out on the ice very often for Finland. He was playing over 20 minutes a game, and maybe you'll remember him as the first goal scorer for Finland in that 3-2 gold medal game for Canada. He logged a lot of minutes last year, so I kind of have a theme going on here that I like picking defensemen because they become the story really when you think about Olin Zellweger last year and a couple other guys that recent years. It's just you need this defenseman in the World Juniors who's going to play 23 plus minutes for you, who's going to be in the power play, who's going to be on the penalty kill, who's going to do a lot. And that's Haimosalmi in my mind leading into this tournament. He's going to be my guy to watch.
Yeah, definitely a good name to pick there. As soon as you said, you can hear Gord saying his name, I thought the same thing because that's all you can hear. When you've got some players who tear it up, I feel like the broadcasters kind of latch onto that and go from there. But yeah, for sure, good pick. Harp, any thoughts on this player before I bring up mine?
Well, just that, I like the approach of going with a lot of defensemen, and I agree they become the story of this tournament because, as we've seen over these last few years here, it's all offense now, and the guys are just so skilled at creating offense, and
everyone can score.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you're at this tournament. So
exactly, and so there's a lot on these defensemen to stop these guys, and he'll be a big part of the blue line for the Finns for sure.
I will say, speaking of Finland, I'll be missing Topi Niemela and Roni Hirvonen this year. 2 Maple Leafs prospects. Hirvonen was the captain at the last tournament, so it's a big loss to be missing those 2 players, but it is what it is. You have to move on. They're real prospects now. So
Hamas last year, 7 points in 7 games for this team, a lot of apples, and it's just he feeds guys from the point, and that's why he's on the ice so much. Not only can he shut guys down, but he chips in offensively. And I think Finland might actually need that this year on the back end, maybe more than ever.
Yeah, for sure. The player that I want to bring up, speaking of Finland, and I think Casey already knows who I'm going to talk about, maybe Harper does too, is Brad Lambert. This is a guy I've latched onto and I've been talking about for years now because he's another player who, he kind of has something to prove. He always has something to prove to the doubters. He slipped and fell in the draft. Last draft, and he was at one time projected to go 1 or 2, and then he was projected to go mid-round, and then he ended up falling to 30th overall to Winnipeg, and he looked great in preseason. He almost made the Jets. He was that good. I don't remember his stats from preseason. I'm sure if I looked hard enough I could find them, but he was really good, and I remember almost gloating on Instagram talking about how I was right, how this player is so good, and I can't believe so many teams passed on him, yada yada.
You almost Zadina'd it.
Exactly. But I didn't. I was very careful and sort of, I was more respectful in that sense. And I was like, hey, listen, this player has a lot of talent. It probably makes sense to send him down to the AHL, even though he was so good in preseason. Well, things haven't gone that well in the American League this year to start for Brad Lambert. He has just 3 points in 14 games. And, for an offensively minded player playing in the second best league in North America, you would expect him to, hopefully produce more than that. And he hasn't. So I think last year or in August's tournament, the thing that he had to prove was, hey, listen, I shouldn't have gone 30th overall. I should have gone higher. Now, in this year's tournament, the thing he has to prove is kind of the same thing, but at the same time, he just has to prove to his team now that he was worth the pick. So he's not trying to prove to everybody else that he was, deserving of a higher pick. He's trying to prove to Winnipeg that they did make the right pick. So I think there's something to be said about that. There's a storyline about Brad Lambert going in. He has to produce. He will be relied on to play heavy offensive minutes for this team. And, I'm just hoping for his sake, for Winnipeg's sake, for my sake, for the sake of everybody who, is in the analytics community and is high on this player, I hope that he has a good tournament because, I think there's a good player there, and it's just whether or not he's able to show it at this tournament. I think that's what it's about. So yeah, Brad Lambert is my player to watch.
Yeah, there's 2 guys on this list of forwards that I expect to be, driving the offense for this team. I hope that because I passed up on him, I hope Harp, and you passed up on him, I hope Harp is going to take the other one. But Brad Lambert is sort of the skillful playmaker out of the 2 that I'm going to be watching on this team, and I think the other one's more of the shooter. So yeah, he's always going to have that chip on his shoulder, and I hope that he really takes it out on all the guys his age.
Yeah, and once again, I feel like the focus is back on Shane Wright and Brad Lambert, the guys that were supposed to go 1 and 2 in the last draft. And Lambert obviously fell, and Shane Wright only fell, 3 spots from number 1. But they both have something to prove.
Yeah.
It's been a struggle for Wright at the NHL level. He's shown some good stuff in the American Hockey League. Now he's the captain, has a chance with Canada to really take that next step. But with Brad Lambert, man, like all the tools are there. Unbelievable skater. The guy absolutely flies up and down the ice. I just think that confidence has been an issue with him and just some stuff mentally there with the pressure and everything. But now he can look forward to a full tournament on a decent Finland team and really show his stuff again and prove to be a steal for the Winnipeg Jets at 30. I still cannot believe that he fell that far. I swore he was going to the New York Islanders to join his uncle Lane, but
and also the Islanders had already made a pick like that in Atu Ratti.
That's right.
So another player projected to go first overall who fell because they saw some potential there. Yeah. And I had Lambert in my top 10. Like, you guys know that. So, like, the talent is there. It's just about putting it together. And, man, like, when you look up and down this roster, offensively anyway, it's him. Like, he's one of the guys.
For sure.
In case I think you're going to talk about another one here, but he's one of the guys who will be relied on very heavily to produce offensively. And if he doesn't, the team kind of goes the way he does. Like, if he doesn't produce, the team won't be good, and it's that simple for Team Finland.
So for me, like, Case teed it up there. Like, I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit for the first time here, and Joachim Kemmel is who I'm going to talk about.
He was a top 5 player last year.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a guy that kind of fell into the Nashville Predators' laps at the draft.
Where did he go? Like 17 or something?
Yeah,
it was late.
Something like that.
17?
Yeah, 17. Nice. He fell, and for Nashville's sake, and I know I always bring it back to how they're going to impact the team, but Nashville's had a tough time drafting forwards, and we just saw that with Eli Tolvanen being claimed off waivers by the Seattle Kraken.
That was dumb. Familiar player.
Yeah.
With like the likes of Kemmel. I mean, this is how we talked about it.
That was dumb
back in the days.
Well, exactly. Here's a Finnish player, and Tolvanen was great for Finland at the World Juniors. But here's another Finnish winger who's got some size. He can score, and he should be able to go out and just light it up, be that trigger man on the power play, and also be able to score off the rush with that shot. So I hope for his sake, for Finland's sake, and for David Poile and the Nashville Predators that Kemmel goes out and has just a rockin' tournament for the Finns.
Yeah, me too. That'd be nice to see.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to Team Latvia. And again, one of these squads that, don't know a lot about, a lot of guys on this team. But, Case, let's get your player to watch for the Latvians.
This podcast is sponsored by Liquid IV. Winter is back, and whether you're playing pond hockey or nursing an eggnog hangover this holiday season, Liquid IV has you covered. Just one stick of Liquid IV in 16 ounces of water hydrates faster and more efficiently than water alone. It contains 5 essential vitamins, B3, B5, B6, B12, and vitamin C. It's made with 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks, premium ingredients, non-GMO, and free from gluten, dairy, and soy. There are plenty of awesome flavors too, but my personal favorite is lemon lime. Get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use the promo code boys_in_the_booth. That's 20% off anything when you order using the promo code boys_in_the_booth at liquidiv.com. Experience better hydration today with Liquid IV. This podcast is sponsored by the ticket app SeatGeek. SeatGeek takes all the confusion out of buying tickets, making it quick and easy to get the best deals on tickets to your favorite sporting events. Plus, Boys in the Booth listeners get $20 off their first ticket purchase on SeatGeek with the promo code Boys in the Booth in all caps. So click the link in the description down below to download the app, and remember to get your discounted tickets using the code Boys in the Booth in all caps. Get great seats for a fraction of the cost with SeatGeek.
You keep me on my toes, Hart. Keep me on the edge of my seat. Did not expect Latvia to be the next team here. I've got a little bit of a scramble going because, I didn't have them up. I didn't have them up next. But
okay, well, I can go.
I'm going to go with... Thanks.
Wow,
Thanks,
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And these, I should say, like, it's not like we're going, like, we're ranking the teams.
Oh, I was.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't.
I just went in the order that they had it on the website.
Yeah.
And so...
Well, I have Sandis Vilmanis.
Okay.
He's, again, when I get into these lower projected teams, guys that I don't really know a lot about Team Latvia, I think the battle of relegations between Latvia and Austria, it comes down to guys who are returning players for me, and that's Sandis Vilmanis for me. He only had 1 assist in 5 games last year, but when you're one of the few guys returning, you're going to be relied upon. Guys are looking at you for the experience and to kind of tell them how they need to react to getting 7 goals scored on them. Like, not everyone knows that experience. So
True.
Not just for that reason, though. He's an OHL player. I've seen him. He plays for Sarnia in the OHL. He's just about a point per game. So, like you mentioned with a player before, I forget which one it was, but he has that North American experience. He probably knows a lot of the guys in this tournament. He knows what he's going to expect for them. So he's probably giving pointers when other OHLers are on the ice. I don't know. He reads to me like a guy who's going to be relied upon. He's one of the only guys actually drafted on this team as well. Mm-hmm. So low-hanging fruit in my mind.
Yep.
That's a guy to watch.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Like, having experience in North America isn't nothing. And that was the point I made about Julian Lutz.
Lutz, that's it.
Yeah, or... Actually, sorry, Julian Lutz, talking about Germany, that was a player who had been drafted, so he had kind of been around that NHL experience before. But there were 3 other players on Germany who we had talked about, Hakan Hanlet, Luca Hoff, and Ryan Del Monte. Again, Germany being a team who isn't going to, isn't expected to do well, so you look to the players who have had that North American experience, who have had that experience playing against really good players over here. So it's just different. And so, yeah, that's a good point. Those are the 3 players I pointed to for Germany. But yeah, talking about Team Latvia here, I'm not going to claim that, I know any of these players more than the next guy. At Team Latvia, it's tough to sort of think about because a lot of the players either aren't drafted or don't play over here. So again, we're not trying to claim to be experts on these players, but when doing a little bit of research prior to, I picked a player, Geerts Silkens, and he's one of the only players on the team, I believe actually the only player on this roster who is currently still eligible to be drafted as an overager. And like your player case, he is playing in North America right now. He currently has 9 points in 22 games in the USHL this year. And like I said, I think he is technically draft eligible as an overager. And in the summer tournament, he had 3 points in 5 games played. So again, sticking with the same theme, guys who had been there before and done that. I think those are the players that you need to be looking at when these teams play, the likes of USA, for example. When Latvia gets spanked 8-0 by USA, when Luke Hughes is going up and down the ice and getting 8 points, you need to look to your more veteran players, the guys who have either been drafted or have played in the tournament before, and just say, like, hey, listen, like, what's the plan of attack here? What's the modus operandi? Like, you have to look to those guys. And Geerts Silkens was the guy that I picked.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's actually a lot more North American players than I realized when I first looked at this team. There's 4 guys from the USHL, 3 guys from the NAHL, and then 1 from the WHL and 1 from the Q and 1 from the O. So I don't know. Maybe this team maybe they have something in the playbook and they're gonna play the spoiler. We'll see.
We'll see if a guy becomes the next Zemgus Girgensons out of Latvia.
There's a statue built for him.
Great name.
The Latvian locomotive is what his nickname was at one point.
Who called him that ever? Was it only Rick Jenneret?
The 700,000 people who voted for him 20 times each to get him in the All-Star game.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. But this is an interesting player. And again, not going to claim that I know him very well, but Dan's Lochmelis, probably butchered that, but anyway, Boston Bruins 4th rounder in 2022. And, looking at the Bruins this year, they're such a powerhouse, and, it's like, the prospects don't really matter. Well, they don't have a lot of them, as we know, and they're going to get to a point down the road where they're going to need to focus on their young players. And so this guy could be a steal for them. He's a later round pick, 4th rounder in this past draft, over a point per game right now in the J20 in Sweden, and he's committed to UMass next season. So that's kind of a nice tie-in to being drafted by Boston. He's going to be right there next season playing in Massachusetts, and hopefully goes out and has a good tournament for Latvia.
Yeah, he's going to be a masshole before he even makes the team. That's perfect.
All right, let's see if I can screw up the order even more after going to Latvia at 3. So let's go to the Slovaks next. Sure. How does that sound?
I would have picked Switzerland, but go ahead.
I did it again. All right, let's go to Slovakia, and Case, you're taking the low hanging fruit on this one.
Yeah, absolutely low hanging fruit here. Chad teed us up saying we're not going to take the best players on the team. Well,
I didn't necessarily say that.
Yeah, right. But I'm taking 2 of them, both Devils prospects, both the best players on the team, both defensemen.
Yeah.
Oh boy, is it a bright future. And I got to take Simon Nemec here. 2nd overall pick last year. We missed him at last tournament, but he played the year before, 4 assists in 5 games as a young player back then. Well, again, expect this guy to... Maybe he doesn't come off the ice. Maybe they just play with 5 defensemen and just have him out the whole time. Might give them even better chance of making it to the quarterfinals in this grouping. But 12 points in 24 games in the AHL so far this year with Utica. Preseason, he looked good with New Jersey and got a lot of attention that, maybe if they didn't have such a strong right side, he could be in the lineup as soon as this year. And I wouldn't doubt the possibility of him coming up later in the season and kind of getting those couple of games without burning a year. He looks good, man. He's such a great skater. He moves the puck really well. His first pass is excellent, and he finds the net with his shot. One of my favorite things about him, it's a seeing eye shot, and you're going to see a lot of that for Team Slovakia because he's going to be out there a lot.
Yeah, good pick. I mean, I feel like we've only talked about Devils prospects this episode. So if you listened to episode 1 and enjoyed it, and then you've listened to episode 2 here,
sorry,
and we're like, what's going on? Yeah, well, sorry, Casey kind of took over with the Devils prospects, but no, it's
they've got a lot of them.
I could have talked about Topias Villain for defenseman on Finland, Devils prospect, but I didn't.
They've got a lot, and they've got a lot of good prospects too, and Simon Nemec is one of them. Listen, like this guy, it seems like he sort of came out of nowhere as a 2nd overall pick, but there's clearly a reason he was picked 2nd overall. He's got all the tools, and clearly with half a point a game in the AHL in his first pro season, he's been able to put them together, at least for the most part so far. So you love to see that. Clearly on this Slovakian team, he's going to be the horse that's relied on. So if we're talking about players to watch, you're not going to have a chance not to, because like you said, Case, like he's going to be on the ice the entire time. So definitely a good pick for the Slovaks. Harp, thoughts?
Well, and like Case, not to pump your tires too much, but like respect to Tom Fitzgerald, like at the end of the day, like they went with a team need first at the draft. They were looking for a right shot D, and they got the best guy available in Simon Nemec. And you're pretty fortunate, man, to have just two defensemen in this tournament that are just going to be absolute horses on the blue line for their respective countries. But no, he's got all the tools. Very dynamic. Can move the puck up the ice and create plays, and he'll be a real treat to watch.
He did play for the Olympic team, Slovakia as well. 7 games, he had an assist, and then he played for the World Championships as well for Slovakia. And it was him and Slafkovsky. They were the show that tournament,
That's
World
right.
Championship, and 6 points in 8 games to really boost that team up. And yeah, it's going to be fun to watch him. I was really happy when they picked him at 2nd overall, and I'm excited. I think I can see him on the team next year. So
just as a side note, like that's pretty cool that 2 Slovak players went 1 and 2 in the last draft, and I don't know if we'll ever see that again.
Probably not, to be honest. There's so many talented players that come up, and the odds that they're both from the same country, let alone the same country that has historically not been a powerhouse at these tournaments or on the world stage, is pretty crazy. So something else I wanted to say too is, like, it's kind of a shame that Juraj Slafkovsky has not been released by the Canadiens to play in this tournament, because I think this would be another opportunity for him to sort of get his confidence back and to really dominate, because it seems like at the NHL level, he's been fairly pedestrian, to be honest. He's been pretty average. He's been knocked off the puck seemingly too easily given his size, and he hasn't been able to score a lot. So it would be nice for him, and I think he would benefit from playing against some lesser competition. And I think personally, I think it's a shame that he's not playing. But that being said, another Habs prospect, Philip Mejzar, is playing in the tournament, so that's something for Habs fans to keep an eye on. But yes, Case, Nemec is a great pick, and I'll be watching him. Another player that I'll be watching, though, is eligible to be picked in this upcoming draft, and he's projected to go in the top 10. He was a player who was a younger guy who played last year. Casey, I don't know if you mentioned him last episode or maybe this one quickly, but it's Dalibor Dvorsky. He's 17 years old. Like I mentioned, he's projected to be picked in the first round this year. Pretty much around the top 10 slots. Like, I've seen him ranked as high as 5th overall. Could creep higher if he has a good tournament. Could be a bit lower if it's a poor one. But last tournament in the summertime, watching this player with the cage on, he was the power play specialist, really. He had so much talent, and watching him last year, he's able to control the puck in a way that a lot of players on Slovakia aren't able to. The way he enters the zone, carries it through the neutral zone, like, it's just, he has a special talent for doing it, especially as such a young player. He had just the 2 points in 4 games in the last tournament, and he has 8 points in 21 games in the Allsvenskan this year. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what this player can do with more ice time this year, now that Team Slovakia kind of knows that he should be relied on to be one of their better players. So looking forward to watching Dalibor Dvorsky this year.
Yeah, I remember him from last year, just kind of seeing him involved in the play every time he's on the ice. Maybe you notice him a little more because he's wearing a cage.
Yep.
But
for sure.
I mean, he's wearing a cage because he's one of the youngest people in the tournament. So yeah, he's playing in Sweden right now, putting up, decent numbers for their second tier league. But you look at his elite prospects, and you look at his all competitions U18 Slovakia numbers: 14 games played, 14 goals, 11 assists. So I think Slovakia is well aware of what they have in this guy, and yeah, he's going to be on the power play. He's going to be the trigger man, and Simon Nemec, he'll be looking to pass to him.
Yeah, I think it was the case in the previous tournament. I keep wanting to say last year, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was in August. So whenever we say last year, it's last tournament.
Yeah.
But I remember in the previous tournament where, it seemed like they sort of eased him into play. And when he got going in their last few games, he was a staple on that power play. He was loaded up on the flank, and all the pucks were going to him on the power play. So I think it could be a similar situation where, he's the trigger man. He's the offensive weapon that they want to utilize there because his shot is so accurate, and he's so successful doing that. So I think he'll be interesting to watch offensively anyways, for sure.
Talk about just this new wave of Slovakian hockey players that we're seeing. We mentioned Nemec and Slavkovsky, but this guy's going to be a high pick too. And I'm even thinking of just all the great players that were Slovaks, like the Marian Gabricks and the Pavel Dimitras and Miro Zhatans and of course Zdeno Chara and all of those guys. But he's going to be a big part of this next wave of Slovakian hockey players coming in, along with Slavkovsky and Nemec and so on and so forth. And talented 17-year-old kid with a lot of skill. He'll be a treat to watch for sure.
Yeah.
Another good player for Slovakia, and the New York Rangers have had a tough time developing younger players, and we're seeing with Kravtsov, just sort of the ups and downs of his development and everything, and being a healthy scratch and whatever. But a second round pick this year that apparently Chris Drury and company really value in the organization. That's Adam Sikora.
Yep.
5'10" center. He can play the wing as well, and just very skilled, and should be a really great player for the New York Rangers down the line here. And with Dvorsky and Nemec and the rest of the crew, I think Sikora will have a big impact for for Slovakia. So he's another great player that I'm going to keep my eye on.
I had to look him up here because I knew, not only the name rings a bell because of Peter Sikora, of course, but it was recent times, and it's because he also played on that World Championship team, and also contributed 2 goals and assists in 6 games. That was a young team, really impressive, but he played in last tournament. He wore an A for this team, so again, I expect him to be someone who's looked upon heavily. He's got to stay out of the penalty box. 27 points or penalty minutes in 4 games last year.
Yeah,
wow,
that's the thing.
I didn't realize that.
Another guy picked by the Rangers that can't stay out of the box and has got some sandpaper, but he's also got a lot of skill as well.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, our last team for Group B, and that is Team Switzerland. So, Case, let's get your final player to watch, and for Team Switzerland this time.
Yeah, so I'm going with another returning player, and another guy who I can just hear his name in my head from Gord's voice. I actually probably woke up in night sweats saying this guy's name because I heard it so often, and that's Attilio Biasca of Switzerland. Probably their best tournament of the season last year, or of the tournament in August.
Yeah.
Let me drill that home.
Yeah.
4 goals, 2 assists in 5 games. Really stood out for them. He was their assistant captain. He's the captain of the Moosehead this season, where he's putting up a point per game in the QMJHL. Really reeks of Nico Hischier, does he not? Playing big time for Switzerland and playing for the Moosehead. So, he's going to be my player to watch. He's gifted offensively. You can tell that we're getting to the end of a 2-episode recording here. His voice is coarse, and I can't talk anymore. So I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to be short and sweet. I'm going to be watching Biasca again this year, and I expect him again to be a top 3 player on this team. Yeah,
Kevin Bieksa would be a nice one to watch, but it's going to be on TSN, not Sportsnet, Case. So a bit of a mixed pick there. But Bieksa will be an interesting player to watch. We'll hear Gord say that. I bet a ton throughout the tournament. But good pick, Case. Gotta love it. I'm going to go with Liam Bichel. for my pick here.
Low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit. Drafted 18th overall in 2021 by Dallas. Another player who I thought, if he was still on the board around the time the Leafs still had their first round pick, around the 20, I think it was like 24th or something. That was a player I was interested in. A big defenseman, plays a lot of minutes, and he's going to this year for this team. Playing in the SHL currently, so has experience against men. I just think he's going to be probably their number one defenseman, at least among his age group, and he'll be fun to watch because you'll get to see, Dallas fans, you'll get to see what you have in the big defenseman. So, Liam Bishop, low-hanging fruit, but I had to take him.
God, I hate Jim Nill, man. Just one good pick after another. This guy's an absolute unit on the back end. He's 6'5", and he'll be out there banging guys around, and he'll be a horse for this Swiss blue line as well. A lot of good Swiss blue liners the past few years, and one guy that comes to mind that I don't think gets enough credit is J.J. Moser in Arizona, who's really taken a step this year. So, that's a good pick for sure. I'm going to go with another D, so surprise on the Swiss, and that's Brian Zanetti. So, can't believe I'm saying this is the second Philly prospect that I'm talking about in these episodes, but he's a Philly fourth rounder in 2021, 6'3" defenseman, and so you've got a couple of trees on the back end for the Swiss that I think will be big parts of the success for this team, and the Swiss should be enjoyable to watch because of the forward that you mentioned, Case, and also these two giants on the back end.
Yeah,
man,
sure.
This team, talk about interesting little side information about Switzerland, just looking at elite prospects, is the dual citizenship going on with this country.
Yeah.
For one, player born in Brazil.
What?
Yeah.
Who was born in Brazil?
Luca Dusan.
Okay.
Butchered that name. Born in Brazil. You got a French player. You got a Canadian citizenship player. A player born in Newark, New Jersey.
Nice.
You've got a Spaniard on this team, as well as a player with Thai citizenship, similar to Jonas Siegenthaler. And an Austrian. So, lots going on this team.
Interesting. I wonder how teams like Norway and Kazakhstan and the teams in the Div 1A feel about this kind of thing going on right here, where it's, a lot of your players are not born in the country of origin, they're not born in Switzerland. So I wonder how these other teams who have been relegated, who are outside of the tournament looking in, I wonder how they feel about that.
Yeah,
I mean, they probably have the same thing going on.
They're probably doing the same.
But I'm just saying it's, you
don't think Kazakhstan has any Russian players playing for them?
For sure. I'm just saying, remember when, the big stink about the Olympics was going on and China was like, okay, where's all the Canadian players who have ever played hockey who have some sort of ties to Chinese heritage? It's kind of the same thing. It's like, I know it's allowed. It just feels weird. Right?
No, it's a great point. Honestly, you see it with every country, and Jake Virtanen was actually born in Finland, but ended up coming over to Canada and played for Canada at the tournament, years back. But
the most obvious one, for me anyway, is William Nylander. He was born in Calgary, raised in Calgary, but he would spend the odd summer, I guess, or most summers in Sweden with his dad, where he's from, and then would come back for the NHL season. And he still does the same thing to this day in the offseason. And he plays for Team Sweden, obviously, despite being born in Canada and a dual citizen. So.
No, it's interesting for sure. This is going to be a fabulous tournament. I think it is every year, but just with the way things ended last year, it was so weird that it was in August. It's in the summertime. We're busy. Didn't get a chance to watch it a lot, but this is just this is what the holidays are all about. It's hanging out with friends and family and watching the World Juniors. So that does it for players to watch in Group A and Group B, episode 151 and 152 of the podcast. It all starts Boxing Day, folks, on TSN. Canada and Czechia will play at 6:30 on TSN, or at least that's when the coverage starts, and looking forward to it. So, again, thanks for everything. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and enjoy the start of the World Juniors from Halifax and Moncton on Boxing Day.
This has been another episode of Boys in the Booth with Harper Cody, Chad Melbourne, and Casey Abrams. New episodes every Monday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Connect with the Boys in the Booth on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Boys in the Booth. Visit boysinthebooth.com for show details, and don't forget, you can become a patron of the podcast for just $1 a month at www.patreon.com/boysinthebooth.